Senate urges sustained efforts to stop Lakurawa infiltration in the northwest.
The Nigerian military to maintain their presence and vigilance in the affected communities to halt the activities of Lakurawa from spreading.
A bill seeking to allow Nigerians in the diaspora to vote passes second reading at the National Assembly. INEC presents certificates of return to Ondo State Governor-elect Lucky Aidatiwa and his deputy. Hello and welcome to the news at 11 on NTA News 24. We're reaching you live from Abuja. I am Dennis Adegunloye. The Senate has, in line with constitutional provisions, invoked Section 157, subsection 1, to remove Chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, Yakubu Danladi Umar. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that a resolution to that effect, supported by a two-thirds majority in the Senate, will formally be forwarded to President Bola Tinubu.
The motion to remove the Code of Conduct Tribunal chairman was raised by Senate leader, and reasons for the decision were given.
The official conduct of Mr. Yakubu Danladi Umar, who is the chairman of the tribunal, has fallen short of the requisite standard of a public officer to conduct the affairs of such tribunal.
Invokes the provisions of Section 157 in the process of the removal of the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal. As your second.
So 74 plus 10 makes 84, and therefore we have gotten the required constitutional requirement to proceed.
Those in support of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Accordingly, Mr. Danladi Umar is hereby removed in line with Section 157, subsection 1 of the Nigerian Constitution as the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal.
The removal of Danladi would enable Abdullahi Usman Bello officially resume office as the chairman, having been appointed by the president and confirmed by Senate. Plenary featured the adoption of a motion from Senator Sukwo Ekpenyong calling for investigation on the non-completion of repairs of Odukpani-Itu Highway despite federal allocations.
The completion of the Odukpani-Itu Highway is not only a matter of infrastructure development, but also a moral and economic obligation to the people of Cross River State and the Niger Delta region at large.
Senate also adopted the motion from Senator Yahya Abdullahi calling for sustained efforts by the military to stop further infiltration of Lakura terrorist group in northwest Nigeria.
The military to work with the communities and other security agencies to set up early warning mechanisms to forestall further incursions.
These people are well armed with sophisticated weapons, and I believe they even have some international connections.
What we need to do is to urge our security agencies to double their effort. We know they are doing very well. This is how Boko Haram started.
A minute's silence was observed in honor of those killed by the terrorists. Meanwhile, Senate has joined the rest of the world in observing the International Children's Day with an assurance that Parliament would provide the needed legislative framework towards a better future. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Meanwhile, a bill to provide constitutional voting rights to Nigerians in diaspora has scaled second reading at the House of Representatives. The bill, sponsored by Speaker Tajuddin Abbas and Representative Sadiq Ango, seeks to alter relevant sections of the Constitution to allow Nigerians residing outside the country to vote during elections without the rigors and logistics challenges of traveling to Nigeria to exercise their rights. In other resolutions, the House called for urgent construction of the abandoned Odukpani-2 road in the south-south geopolitical zone.
Urge the Federal Ministry of Budgets and National Planning to ensure the inclusion of Odukpani-2 Federal Highway construction in the 2025 budget estimates. Also mandates the Committees on Public Procurement and works to investigate the abandonment of Odukpani/Itu Road project, which was awarded in tranches to Julius Berger, Sematec, and CCECC in 2021.
In other news, the acting Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, has ordered an investigation to unravel the circumstances surrounding a viral video purportedly of a senior army officer and 2 soldiers in an altercation with a man and woman within the Abuja metropolis. A statement by the Director, Army Public Relations, Major General Onyema Nwachukwu, assures the public that due diligence will be applied to reach a logical conclusion. The Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, has urged investors in the solid minerals sector to operate responsibly with due regard to the environment while promising business-friendly conditions in the country. This was at the closing of the Mining Week in Abuja, which attracted stakeholders from across the globe. Ekene Ndulue reports.
For 3 days, players in the mining industry and regulators converged on this hall, exploring policy choices that will accelerate development in the sector. Minister of Solid Minerals Development is expressing delight with the engagements, noting that it was also another opportunity to educate stakeholders on regulatory frameworks introduced in the past 1 year.
I mentioned our efforts in aggressively marketing this sector globally, such that direct investors from abroad are rushing into the ministry, making inquiries. I did tell the stakeholders all the data analytics and artificial intelligence, including satellite, that we are introducing into our regulatory framework.
Industry players say the sector has the potential of becoming Nigeria's highest revenue earner if identified challenges are addressed.
We have been able to look at all those issues that are inhibiting the growth of the sector over the years and how all these factors can be ameliorated so that the industry will grow and to deliver on its mandate to Nigerian citizens.
As the event concluded, stakeholders expressed optimism for the future of the mining industry, with calls for enhanced cooperation between governments, private enterprises, and international investors. In Abuja, Ekene Ndulue, NTA News.
The federal government says Ghana has formally handed over a building belonging to the High Commission of Nigeria in Accra, Ghana. A statement by the ministry spokesperson commends the move and describes it as a symbol of Ghana's commitment to strengthening ties between both countries. The statement affirms that the reconstructed building embodies the spirit of cooperation and mutual respect that defines the relationship between Nigeria and Ghana. The keys to the building were received by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who was represented by Ambassador Chimezie Ogu, Director of Foreign Service Academy, Lagos, on behalf of the federal government. It recalled that the demolition of the building by Ghanaian authorities was strongly condemned by the Nigerian government, and following a series of high-level engagements, the Ghanaian government promised to reconstruct the block of 4-bedroom flats. The National Center for Counter-Terrorism, under the Office of the National Security Advisor, has launched a project that seeks to support and protect the rights and needs of terrorism victims in Nigeria. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa reports that the national coordinator of the center, Major Adamu Garba Lake, performed the ceremony in Abuja.
These are some of the people displaced by the decade-long terrorism in northeast Nigeria, mostly women and children, numbering more than 10,000. Some of the women being raped, young girls forced into marriage or suicide mission, while children who are product of this crime subjected to stigmatization. Survivors are left with deep scars and trauma.
To officially launch the model legislative...
The launch of this technical assistance project on promotion and support for rights and needs of victims of terrorism through the implementation of a model legislative aims at strengthening Nigeria's legal framework to enhance protection and support for victims of terrorism in line with international best practices.
This project will enhance the operationalization of the Victim Trust Fund as enshrined in the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. It underscores our collective commitment to restoring dignity, promoting resilience, and providing justice for victims and survivors of terrorism.
While there have been improvements since the dark days of Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria, we bear the responsibility to help these victims reclaim their humanity.
I don't just see it as a concerted effort, but a deliverable. It is highly commendable to know that this Nigeria model is about to become the model of first reference for the global change when it comes to impacting counter-terrorism.
The project is in collaboration with the UN Office of Counter-Terrorism, Drugs and Crime. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
The federal government has dissolved the governing council of the Nnamdi Azikiwe University following alleged grave breach of the laws governing the university and disregard for lawful directives from the Federal Ministry of Education. A statement issued by the Director of Press and Public Relations, Federal Ministry of Education, says that the decision came after the ministry found out that the chairman of the council unilaterally appointed a vice-chancellor who did not meet the minimum criteria for the position, leading to a breakdown of law and order in the institution. As part of urgent measures to resolve the dispute, following members of the governing council have been removed. They are Greg Ozumba, Pro-Chancellor, Hafiz Oladijo, council members, and also Augustine Onyedebelu, Amioleran Osahon, and General Funsho Onyenyeyin, retired. Also removed is Professor Bernard Odo, the Vice-Chancellor. We'll take a short break. More reports in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, northern Nigeria needs to re-strategize and produce a blueprint for its developments from the series of previous meetings held using suggestions that can solve the myriad of challenges confronting the region. These were the views of paper presenters and speakers during the Stakeholders Roundtable on Northern Nigeria Youth Development. Ibrahim Belogunda reports.
The Stakeholders Roundtable on Northern Nigeria Youth Development is at the instance of Sir Ahmadu Bello Memorial Foundation with the theme Empowering the Next Generation, Strategies for Sustainable Development in Northern Nigeria. Unlike previous meetings, the roundtable seeks to find solutions to the challenges already identified during previous meetings, as well as emulate the late Premier of Northern Nigeria, Sir Ahmadu Bello Sardauna of Sokoto's developmental strides and policies. The topics, ranging from unlocking the economic potential of Northern Nigeria, presented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, represented by Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed, and panel discussion on entrepreneurship education as pathway to youth economic empowerment. Others are addressing the impact of insecurity on youth development, challenges and opportunities, with panel discussion on empowering youth through agricultural entrepreneurship in Northern Nigeria.
Governors that are here, please, our message to your colleagues is sit together, have a coordinated action to save us from the challenges we are facing.
To have a group that will continue to study the skill gap. So once we identify the gap, then we train people that will fit into that gap. The number of people, and this has to be coordinated.
The federal government is focused in a Nigeria that works for all, that Nigeria that includes all.
We have to bridge the gap between our educational system and the industries. That's completely the link.
Skill-based education is the way to go. And I'm happy a lot of states are doing that.
The roundtable ended with a pledge and call on all stakeholders to use identified challenges in finding short, medium and long-term plans to turn around the misfortune in northern Nigeria to see that the region prospers in all ramifications. In Abuja, Ibrahim Bello Gunda, NTA News.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has presented certificates of return to the winner of the November 16th Ondo State governorship election, Lucky Aiyedatiwa of the APC, and the Deputy Governor-elect, Olaide Owolabi Adelami. INEC National Commissioner Professor Kunle Ajayi presided over the brief ceremony at the INEC headquarters, Abuja.
That contributed towards the successful conduct of this election from the voters for coming out to exercising their franchise, thereby reaffirming the principles of choice and accountability. The issuance of certificates of return is not merely a ceremonial act. It is a constitutional obligation under Section 72, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act, which mandates INEC to issue certificate of return to the elected governor and the elected deputy governor having conducted a free, fair, credible and inclusive election.
The good people of Ondo State, the mandates you have just renewed via your huge votes across the 18 local government agencies, where we won convincingly. It has placed a burden on me to be able to serve you better than I have in the last 10 months.
Lucky Aiyedatiwa and his deputy are scheduled to be sworn in on February 23rd, 2025. The Accord National Executive Committee has approved the expulsion and suspension of some members of the party. This was part of resolutions reached at the end of the party's NEC meeting in Abuja. The NEC deliberated on the report of the 7-man disciplinary committee set up by the National Working Committee to investigate alleged gross misconduct, anti-party activities and breaches of the party's constitution against some members. Accordingly, NEC expelled 8 members and suspended 3 others for violating Article 20A of the party constitution.
Party members, like I stated before, Professor Christopher Imomole, Larry Ogundare, Sarajo Ibrahim, Mukhtar Abdallah, Abiola Samuel, Falaye Ajibola, Adebisi Adewale, and Jacob Ephraim are no longer our party members. They have been expelled from the party.
Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has been commended for his remarkable achievements in transforming the nation's capital. The Coalition for Truth and Justice in Nigeria said that Wike has demonstrated exceptional leadership and vision, with infrastructure developments being prioritized, addressing population pressure, urban sprawl, and neglected areas. They noted that the FCT is being transformed into a useful and aesthetically pleasing capital, with proactive measures addressing housing, transportation, healthcare, and governance infrastructure, and he has addressed land grabbing, reclaiming illegally occupied lands for mass housing projects.
And a step in the right direction in addressing the housing deficit in the FCT. The FCT administration has made substantial investments in improving access to healthcare for rural dwellers within the FCT, in the construction of new healthcare centers and equipping of existing healthcare centers across the FCT. The FCT administration, under the leadership of Barrister Nyesom Wike, has made substantial improvements in the remuneration and welfare packages for school teachers in the FCT. All relevant stakeholders in the FCT should extend their support to the Honorable Minister of the FCT towards making the FCT a befitting federal capital territory.
CTJN urges Nigerians to disregard false accusations against the minister, which they say are designed to detract from his laudable achievements. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has been commended for the significant strides that have been gained in the aviation industry. The good governance advocates of Nigeria specifically praised the president for what they call his transformational leadership and applauded the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Developments, Festus Keyamo, for his exceptional contributions. They pointed out the smooth execution of the Cape Town Convention as a notable achievement which demonstrates the federal government's commitment to bringing aircraft financing and leasing in line with global best practices, as well as the focus on tackling difficulties that domestic airlines face in Nigeria. The minister's determination to address safety issues was also commended.
Operators in this sector, both domestic and foreign airlines, now have more confidence, creating a sense of hope on personal collaboration, business development, and improvement in service. Perhaps most commendable to say is Mr. Keyamo's strong commitment to safety, which has been a challenge in the airspace. By prioritizing the safety of passengers, crew, and assets over time, he has strengthened Nigeria's compliance with global best standard practices. In further creating a robust oversight and training programs, the ministry has significantly improved safety protocols, which have earned merited accolades from international bodies.
Nigeria and China have elevated their cooperation through several bilateral agreements that reflect their shared interests and development goals. The recently concluded China-Nigeria Business Forum in Beijing was acknowledged by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Bianca Ojukwu, during her meeting with Chinese development partners in Abuja. Garba Natala reports.
The recently concluded China-Nigeria Business Forum in Beijing has accorded Nigeria's delegation to explore new horizons, according to the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Bianca Ojukwu. As a reciprocal visit, these Chinese development partners indicated interest in investing in Nigeria's key sectors of the economy, including security, agriculture, manufacturing, among others.
This would be a welcome investment, and you can be rest assured that we in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, of course, Ambassador Bolaji, who is very entrenched also in the Ministry of Trade and Investment, will ensure that your engagements are very seamless in this area.
At this time, Nigeria has reached a stage of no return with China, where our relationship has been scaled up to comprehensive strategic partnership. Very few countries in the world have this kind of partnership with China.
Following Nigeria's participation in the Chinese Business Forum, the Director, Trade and Investment, Akiremi Bolaji, states that over 200 Chinese companies indicated interest in fostering economic collaboration with Nigeria. The development partners are expected to submit their proposals to a technical committee to be established at the ministry. In Abuja, Garba Muhammad Atala, NTA News.
And that concludes the news at 11 on NTA News 24. Many thanks for watching. I am Dennis Degunloye. Have a good night.